Hey everyone, it's Alex and welcome to this new video where we're going to be discussing some of the big changes that we saw in the most recent data mine this week and also some new cards that have been revealed via the data mines. Now right off the top, this is a brand new series, something that I've been ultimately kind of hesitant to do, but it seems like there's a lot of interest in the community to discuss these things, so I'll give my 2 cents. With that being said, it's also important to note that these are data mined and so therefore Second Dinner has free reign to change it however they please. This is only what we see now, and things can change rather rapidly, okay? So let's talk about the cards, and I actually thought of taking a little bit of a different approach here, and so what I have here is kind of like an emote review on each individual slide, where I have room, of course, and what I'm going to do is do a little emote review of the changes or of the new cards to give you a bit of an idea of how I feel at a snapshot, which is a little more fun than just like a formal star-based review. Anyways, the big thing to talk about today is Eson. Now, Eson was revealed as a 613 that had a legendary tag, which a lot of people kind of thought was a tag that basically meant you can only have 1 legendary card per deck, which, I mean, makes sense. It said at the start of the game, if all your cards have different powers, give them +2 power. This was super exciting, and I think it was because it was a very interesting way to deck build, but also I think that like in the video where I discussed it, I talked about it being perhaps a little rigid because there was probably a mathematical best deck for it, and that might have been what leaned Second Dinner off because they absolutely took Eson behind the shed and gave it a pump because now it's a 6/9, which is nice, but after each turn, put a card from your hand that didn't start in your deck here. That might have some synergy, but it's not the amazing card it was before. Like this goes from a 5-star card to like a, I don't know, what is this, a 3-star card? I wasn't gonna say 3. I wasn't gonna say stars. I'm Heimdalling right now. Yeah, it kind of sucks. This is a massive change for a design that I thought was actually pretty cool. It's a little unfortunate. This design might still find play, but man, that legendary design was pretty interesting. So I think a lot of people are a little disappointed with Eson being changed the way it has been, but c'est la vie. I guess Second Dinner has some sort of plan. I would like to see this text come back eventually. I think that's pretty cool. It's a nice idea, but Eson is not going to be what it was before. And then we go to Starbrand. I love this change. I absolutely love this change. It was a cool design originally, but like it was kind of like a, I don't want to say dumb design, but like you just got a bunch of chonky boys and Starbrand gets huge. Okay, cool. That could be a card, but the 310 that has an ongoing that gives your opponent +3 power to other locations. This is a Sauron 0 card, which is so great. Sauron has been an archetype that has had almost nothing going for it for so long, and so now you got a little bit of something. And I'm excited for that because the Sauron Shuri style decks were amongst my favorite for a while, especially after Shuri got changed and it wasn't like the menace of the meta that it was in that launch-based period. But I think Starbrand could serve a really good purpose for those that want to play some Marvel Snap with Sauron. Sauron used to be one of the statistical best cards in the game, and it was a card that a lot of people weren't like actually excited about. Like it was not a card that like drew much attention, but it kind of just fell off. You had nerfs happen, but just general power creep. Like it has not gotten an archetype kind of booster since Starbrand. And so I'm actually really excited for this. I love this card. I think it's going to be really big. Obviously, it's super harmful if you don't Sauron or zero it. It's similar to what Typhoid Mary feels like now. But at the same time, it's definitely worth playing. It's definitely worth taking a shot. And the only thing that I get a little concerned with is if Sauron becomes far too focused on, I win if I draw Sauron on 3, or I lose if I don't draw Sauron on 3. And I don't know if Starbrand kind of might add to that. But ultimately, I love this card. I'm glad that it's coming out the way it is because that archetype needs something. And we got Firehair. Now, Firehair was revealed in the prior data mine. We talked about it in the Spotlight Cache video, as all these cards were. And the original tag was as a 2/2, you can move this once, and when it moves, revive one of your destroy cards here. It was pretty cool. I thought it was all right. I like the movement-based side, but that got changed. It's now a 2/3. When one of your cards is destroyed, this uses that card's on reveal. And I'm giving the sweaty face here, the sweaty Red Guardian, because this is complex, and I think that the play lines are potentially interesting, especially if you consider like, okay, like Mill's destroying things right now with like Misery, and so Firehair could like absolutely just mill someone's decks like crazy, right? I see Mill potentially really liking this, but at the same time, it's like classic destroy. Like you don't want to like venom a Deathlock or something, right? Like and then accidentally blow up, or do you? Like there's a Wolverine in your lane with an X-23, but there's a big chunk that you venom, and then all of a sudden the Firehair does its procs, and that's kind of cool, right? So ultimately, like, I think that it takes a lot of like macro consideration how Firehair is going to be played. I think it's a really cool design, but it's probably going to be a complicated one. And that's why I got the sweaty face, because it's going to be one of those like head scratchers when you're trying to set up your board to best take advantage of Firehair's ability. But I do think it's a cool ability, and it's an interesting change at the very least. And then we go to Knonshu, which is, I actually really like this design. I think that there's going to be a lot of major synergies, and if you're confused right off the top, let me try to kind of help clarify. And it looks like it has like an apocalypse style effect where it kind of returns to your hand after being discarded. But basically, when discarded, the first one here, which is a 6/5, when discarded, returns in its next phase. On reveal, resurrect a card you discarded to another location with its base power set to 5. It doesn't say base power, I added that word, but whatever. Now, there's a couple things to know here if you're a little confused. First of all, it remains 6 powers, but every time you discard it, 6 energy, but every time you discard it, it gains additional power. So it goes from 5 to 7 to 12. Moreover, the card that gets resurrected, okay, that you discarded, gets its power changed from 5 to 7 to 12. So imagine you use a card, you just use Blade to discard a Iron Man, right? When you play Knonshu on turn 6, the on reveal is it resurrects Iron Man to another location with its power set to 12. So you effectively get 24 power, which is pretty awesome just from that single play. And then, of course, you have Knonshu that's a 6/12. So it's not just 24 power, it's even more than that. And what's interesting is you are attacking multiple locations. What I like about this card is I actually love astronomy. Like, if in another world, in another life, I am most 100% trying to be an astronaut or an astrologer, like working in astronomy in some way. And I love the fact that it works off of the phases of the moon, right? So you start off with the first phase and you go to like the waxing or waning phase, and you go to the full phase. I think that's really neat. I think that's a nice touch, right? But anyways, that's kind of the idea here. When you discard, it comes back to your hand, and its stats and the effect both improve, because at the end of the day, it's an on-reveal card, right? It's an on-reveal card that when it's discarded gets effects, right? So you just don't want to discard it after it's been discarded twice, because once you discard it the third time, then, you know, it's out of your hand, it's discarded. You're going to have to like try to hell it or something like that, right? So Knonshu, I think, is really interesting as well. And then we have Agamotto. This is a lot here, and I didn't have enough room for either of these two cards to kind of put an emote on the screen, but Agamotto, at the game start, shuffle 4 Ancient Arcana into your deck. It's a 5/10, and one thing I'll say is these have the terms Banish in them. We don't know what Banish is, and I don't know if it's like, oh man, I was trying to think about what this could be, and I want to take a guess, because I really don't know. I wonder if Banishing is like, it becomes a dead draw that gets added to your deck. Like, what if it's like a kind of like a pain card that gets added to your deck, and if you draw it, it's like a dead draw, right? It's a card you can't use, but it actually kind of diluted your deck, because the effects are insanely powerful. So you have a 5/10 body. At the game start, you shuffle the 4 cards in your deck, which is dilution as it is. And then on reveal, you know, you have the Winds of Watum. On reveal, afflict an enemy card here with -5 power and move it right. That's a lot of negative power, and obviously you have the disruption effect as well, and that's pretty crazy. And then you have the temporal manipulation. On reveal, give Agamotto +3 power. Put him into your hand if he's not in play. That's super cool too. It's like you guarantee draw the card, and that's pretty fascinating. You have the images card. On reveal, transform your other cards here into copies of the highest power one. Okay, that has a lot of potential synergy. Really interesting. Bolts. You have the on reveal, next turn you get +4 energy. Who would not want +4 energy? Think about all the hoops you jump through for Wiccan. Now, these are obviously pretty powerful, pretty interesting, and these are data mines, so a lot of things can change, but this seems pretty crazy. And Agamotto looks like a really fun, fascinating design, a big bad design even. So I'm super fascinated to see what can potentially come from this, because this is a really cool card. And it's a complicated one, but it's super fascinating. Continuing with the data mine, we have some other changes here, and we do have the first Ghost Rider, who was a 2/4 prior, was changed to a 2/6, and the on reveal reads, on reveal, discard the lowest power card from your hand. Remove that card's power from this. That is pretty interesting. Like, if you think about it, if you have like a Yondu in hand, and you discard the Yondu, and then you play the first Ghost Rider, he comes out as a 2/4. Okay, but because it's targeting the lowest power card, you would run like a Hobgoblin. And because the Hobgoblin's a negative, if this works like I would expect it to, I would expect the Hobgoblin to provide positive power into so it would be a 2/14. Like, I don't know, like, would it actually work that way? Like, if you just discard a, Green Goblin, does it become a 2/9? We have to find out, right? Like the potential's there. It says, you know, you're going to be removing that card's power from this. So if you're removing -8, you know, I'm not a mathematician, but that sounds like a pretty powerful 2-drop. But however, you know, we'll have to see how it actually plays in the actual game itself. But this potentially could be really interesting. Then we have Dum Dum, who's a 2/2 ongoing. Your cards in the front row here have +1 power. Now, we're going to talk about the whole front row, back row type thing, but this is the first instance of kind of the idea of like what the rows might be in Marvel Snap. And we've never really given consideration to like the positioning of cards. Move players throwing their hands up right off the bat. I know in Move, you know, the positioning does matter based off of like how the cards shift with Heimdall and stuff like that. But generally speaking, for the rest of us, we don't really care what physical position the cards are in, but apparently Dum Dum's going to care about that. And he's not the only card to care about that, because we've got these 2 new cards, which honestly, as Agatha's showcasing, look pretty cool. Okay. Captain Carter as a 4/2 has an ongoing. Your other cards in the back row here gain this card's power. So again, you have the back row style kind of concept here. So I'm assuming, now again, we don't know anything, but I'm assuming this means that you have Captain Carter and the cards that are positioned behind her get additional power based off of Captain Carter's power. That's pretty cool. Now, it is a 4-drop. And so, like, you want her, if you want her in the front and then the cards in the back row, I mean, that's not necessarily true. Because if she's in front and the cards are stacked behind her, they all get buffed. But if she's one of the back cards, I guess it just means that she's going to buff the other one beside her? Probably. Now, it's only going to be in that location because it does say here. So that particular location, you have 4 slots, 2 in the front, 2 in the back. If Captain Carter's in the front, 2 cards get buffed. If she's in the back, 1 card gets buffed. That's what I assume. Regardless, it's interesting. I'm not quite convinced of its power yet, but like I still want to do some theory crafting and stuff like that. Now, Kahhori, who I'm very unfamiliar with, I have no idea who Kahhori is a 4/6 on reveal. For each card in your hand, give a friendly card +1 power. Okay, that actually sounds pretty good. Like that's awesome for the Victoria hand, Devil Dinosaur type archetypes, and that actually could be tremendously powerful, especially as an on reveal for turn 4, because often going into turn 4, you're able to generate a lot of like hand generation, right? Like there's a lot of ways where you can prop this power up. And so this being well above like 4/10, I think is really achievable. Like 4/6, it's making White Queen look like an absolute joke at this point. So I think this is a very, very strong card. It has a very consistent line. It has a very consistent deck that you think it's going to go in. And that whole deck is only getting stronger with the additions of like Victoria Hand and etc. So I think Kahhori could potentially be very interesting. It's actually probably one of the cards I'm most excited about. And then we go to Strange Supreme and Hydra Stomper with yeah, these look okay. What can I say? Now, Strange Supreme has, I think, a more complicated byline that I need more time to like think about. The play lines on Strange Supreme, obviously to 2/0. Give this +2 power whenever it merges. After each card, merge one of your cards that didn't start in your deck into this. So again, you're working with that like hand generation type stuff, and then you're going to be merging into the Strange Supreme, and that could potentially be very interesting. He could be a magnet for Shang-Chi's and for other effects, like, of course, like, Shadow King. But it is a very interesting effect, and I'm very interested in seeing how this card plays out, especially as we get closer to its potential release. So we can get an idea of like, you know, what synergies might be going on and like what the meta is like and what decks are performing and how Doctor Strange, or Strange Supreme, I should say, could slot into that. And I'm assuming Strange Supreme is Doctor Strange after he's handled the Darkhold. Is that kind of like what we're talking about? And on that note, if you're familiar with the comics and you know who like Hydra Stomper is and Kahhori and all those types, like let me know in the comments, because I would actually love to be able to like say, oh, I'm going to read up, or I'll watch that series, or I'll find out more about these individual characters, because that's what I love about Snap. It's actually got me really into the lore, and I'm actually very unfamiliar with most of these. Let me go to Hydra Stomper. Hydra Stomper is an ongoing card that gets +1 power for each card you have moved this game. Now, what's very important about this is that, now, I don't assume that this is exclusive just to yourself. By means, if you move something with arrow, this should get +1. If you move this with like, I don't know, I'm just saying, if you move the opponent's cards, you should be getting +1 because you have moved them. It's your action that results in the move. You think, oh, it gets buffed when you Heimdall all your stuff. Like, yeah, it's going to get buffed when you Heimdall all your stuff. But also, I think this is going to be really cool in Scream decks if it works the way I would expect, because like if you Polaris something, like this will get +1. It's also an ongoing card, which means that you can play this on turn 6. The turn 6 in those Scream decks right now, they're also often revolving around, Magneto, which is still good. It still kind of does the thing, but it's not the best. Like, it's always felt like very replaceable. Like, it sounds kind of funny in a move style deck that like Magneto, or like kind of like a disruption moves deck, I should say. That Magneto is not good enough, but it's often felt awkward on turn 6. Hydra Stomper plus another card that might be, worth playing could potentially be very interesting. So I think that's pretty interesting. I'm really looking forward to Hydra Stomper. I think it's good. Its stats, it has the bishop-based stats, but I feel like you can probably activate the movement quite a bit. With regards to new cards, I think Goliath is absolutely cracked. Like, literally absolutely cracked. And my emotes showcasing, like, this might be the one that is probably changed, nerfed, or whatever. Ongoing +1 power for each other ongoing you have in play. That is a very, very powerful card. And one of the things that ongoing is often looking for are inexpensive versions of ongoing cards that they can kind of hit with Spectrum or they can synergize with and stuff. And Goliath feels like a speed style scaler that's way easier to deck build around. I mean, Goliath is really, really well statted, especially when you consider those ongoing decks. We'll be able to get that to, like, I mean, there's no way it's less than like 2-5. Right? There's no way it's less than 2-5 if you're playing ongoing decks. And if you really lean into ongoing, it could very well be much higher than that. And then getting hit with Spectrum, right? So Goliath looks like a very clean design for ongoing decks that want to have better early bodies on the field of play. And like Goose is a 2-2. Goose is a 2-2. This is a 2-1 that becomes a 2-2 with Goose on the field of play. So yeah, Goliath I think is absolutely cracked. And it's actually kind of like a really straightforward type of card too. I'm surprised it doesn't exist already. And then Topaz, I'm not sure what to think about Topaz. It's a 3-4 after you play a card here, move it to the middle location. Okay. Obviously with move, that's pretty interesting. Like you could play, your Vulture on top of Topaz and it'll get kicked to the middle location. And then you could, have Madam Web there, move him and then go Spider. Like you can do stuff. It's probably good. And it's like a reliable type of move because you know where it's going. And you know that if you play on top of Topaz, it will go where you expect it to go, which is the middle location. So I think this is probably a pretty cool tool for move. 3-4, stats are fine. I mean, we have a 3-6 in Luna Snow now, so 3-4 doesn't look so impressive. But yeah, it's probably an absolutely fine card. And then this is one that, oh man, talk about RNG. Infinity Ultron. Now, we don't have any pictures of the actual Ultron and the stones. Thinking about it now, I probably could just put the, Thanos stones, but whatever. We never had space. But Infinity Ultron, a 5-6, on reveal, add 2 Ultron Infinity Stones to your hand. So you're going to get 2 of these 6 stones. You have the Ultron Space Stone. Now, some of these, obviously, they're data mines, and so, like, the text is kind of, it's code text, but move the lowest, on reveal, move the lowest power enemy card here to a card modified location. I'm not quite sure how that reads, but basically you get to move a lowest costed enemy card to another location. The Reality Stone is add a token here, set its power to some sort of modification. I'm not sure. So you get a token and you're setting it to the power. I wonder if the token is related to Ultron's power? Possible. I mean, maybe you guys have better guesses, but that's kind of what I would assume, that, Reality Stone, you create a token and it's set to Ultron's power. Then you have Ultron's Time Stone. On reveal, put a card from your hand here. Okay, pretty cool. That's like the Red Bird. I said Red Bird, Red Wing. Then you have Ultron Mind Stone. Ongoing. Your on reveal abilities here happen twice. It's a mini Wong for the Mind Stone. And guess what? A lot of these are on reveal. So like with the Time Stone, you can bring in 2 cards from your hand, for instance. Then you have the Power Stone, another on reveal that would love to work with the Mind Stone. Double your Infinity Ultron's power. Okay. We got some exponential growth here. You love to see it. Maybe you don't love to see it because this card looks kind of cracked. I mean, it's obviously a little inconsistent with what you're generating here, but all these seem good. And then you have the Soul Stone on reveal. For each full location you have, give a friendly card here +2 power. Perhaps maybe the weakest of them. Maybe. Just maybe, but either way, a really interesting design, and this obviously just got data mined. I would expect to see the stones get modified and changed around a bit. Maybe his power gets changed a lot, but right now, it looks really promising. This looks like a really, really cool card and a really fun addition. Thank you so much for watching. If you'd like to see more Marvel Snap content, I got another video for you on the screen here. If you'd like to subscribe and support my content right above my head, I got a subscribe button. Thank you guys, and we'll see you on that next one.